welcome to our regular board meeting of August 11th, 2025. We'll start the roll call.
Amy Riddle Swanson.
Here.
Gabe Smith.
Here.
Dominique Stewart.
Here.
Rachel Henderson.
Here.
Dale Dahlke. Amber Kirsting.
Here.
Emily Hines.
Here.
Michelle Dupree.
Here.
Angela Wolf.
Here. We have a quorum. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our mission statement. The school district of the Menomonie area, by embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community, is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Do we have any proposed changes to the agenda order tonight? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to community communications. It's like we have one speaker tonight, Josie Pullman.
Hi, I'm Joseph Gilman, and I live in Wisconsin, in the school district. Dr. Zadowski and members of the board. Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, or WILL, representing the Empowered Community Coalition, recently filed a friend of the court brief in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. Currently, the 7th Circuit is reviewing 2 Wisconsin cases that previously gave permission to biological males who identify as transgender to use girls' bathrooms and locker rooms in public schools. WILL's brief urges the court to overturn both decisions in light of recent cases in the lower courts and in the U.S. Supreme Court that have affirmed biological reality. This is kind of a summation of the friend of the brief court, of the court brief. Our state laws and policies should reflect a sincere effort to make students feel safe in school. Allowing biological boys to invade girls' spaces does not accomplish this goal. Gender-confused children need real help and hope from those who share the truth, not affirm their confusion. The 7th Circuit should heed WILL's advice and put an end to such policies. Now I'm going to go ahead and read what our SDNA policies read, how it reads. Under student intramural and interscholastic athletic/extracurricular activities, I quote, students will be permitted to participate in intramural sports/extracurricular activities in a manner consistent with their gender identity, consistently expressed at school. So this is my note now. This reads gender identity, does not read biological sex. I'll continue. Student trips and overnight accommodations. When a school sponsors an activity that requires overnight accommodations, transgender and gender non-conforming students shall not be denied the right to participate. The district shall consider the goals of maximizing a transgender student's social integration and equal opportunity to participate in overnight activities and athletic trips, ensuring the student's safety and comfort and minimizing stigmatization of the student. So this is my note now. Note how this phrase gives an unhealthy concern for the stigmatization of the students above the literal safety of the biological girl. I think you've waited long enough. I think it's time to change your gender policy plan, school board, for the sake of our children. Thank you.
Next up, we have revenue and expenditure reports for the month ended July 2025.
Yeah, as usual, I'll start with the revenue report for July 2025. So besides there being the new numbers from the preliminary budget populated in here, as you can see, not much going on in revenue so far. Of course, later in the year, much more activity, but right now, not much activity in the revenue report. Moving on to the expense by object, you may have noticed certain expenses such as salaries to be quite a bit over last year at this time. That is because right out of the gate in July we had 3 payrolls, and so with those 3 payrolls instead of just 2, those expenses show up much more. And then in the expense by function. Various functions here, similar to the 23 230,000 series, are affected by the extra payroll as well. And again, these are populated with the new preliminary budget numbers. So yeah, those are the three reports.
Any questions or discussion on the revenue and expense reports? Thank you. Next up, we have our monthly employment report for July of 2025. This is informational. Any questions or discussion? Was it something you want to say?
I would like to point out that we did receive a retirement request from Matthew Wagner from our maintenance staff. He'll be requesting retirement effective January 2nd. So we appreciate him giving us plenty of notice. Appreciate all his years of service to the school district. Certainly will be missed, and we wish him very well in retirement.
If I'm doing the math right, that's 36 years. That's
A very long time.
You think that's crazy?
all right. Next up, we have the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second, Heinz. All right, tonight we have minutes from the board meetings of July 14th and July 28th, 2025. Financial reports, general fund checks in the amount of $3,128,076.58. And cash receipts in the amount of $123,145.29 for July 2025. There's one donation exceeding $1,000, that's $1,850.10 from local business donations program advertisements. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda?
Can you just explain briefly the program advertisements?
1 second. Sorry, I was just looking at a different item. The program advertisements, I believe that is for the athletic programs that Mr. Riley has been working forward or toward. We've received a lot of support from our local community, and that's certainly appreciated. It helps go for the extras for some of the kids with all the different sports and activities that are in.
Thanks.
Sorry for the delay.
That's okay.
Any other questions or discussion on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, let's vote. And motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have the personnel consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda.
Also move, baby.
Second.
All right, and tonight we have one request to hire. This is our last, is it, right? We're all done, yay! Any questions or discussion on the request to hire? All right, seeing none, let's vote. And motion passes unanimously. On to our discussion agenda. First, we have a review of the 2025-2026 back-to-school plans. Can I take this?
Yes, and directors, principals, feel free to chime in if there's anything that I missed, but it's hard to believe we're here already, talking about back to school, but I gotta say we are extremely excited. We had an administrative meeting today, and the way I was talking about it, this is the most excited I've been for a school year in quite some time. You know, we had the whole pandemic issue, and that actually took quite a bit to get through the pandemic and then the recovery from the pandemic. And last year really felt like the most normal year that we've had in quite a while. Couple that with all the great staff that have been hired and all the different activities that we have for our kids. Just absolutely can't wait for the teachers and students to get back. When we look at what is coming up, this week already, we are having our new teachers come and report for new teacher orientation. They'll be here on Wednesday. They'll also be meeting with their mentors all of our new teachers in the school district get assigned a teacher mentor to make sure that they can hit the ground running and have a great start to their career in Menomonie. School board members, you've received the invitation. We are having a luncheon for those new teachers, and all board members who are able to attend are certainly welcome, and we would be happy to have you there. Then we get to August 19th, and we will start our professional development for the rest of our staff. Our all-staff professional development day will begin at the high school in the morning. That's on August 20th, and there's all sorts of different professional development activities throughout that week. Our meet and greet day for all the students in 4-year-old kindergarten through 8th grade will be August 26th. That's also the freshman first day, where the high school has a special transition day for the freshmen, where they work with older student leaders. Crew setting where some of the older students, the upperclassmen, really help the freshmen get accustomed to the high school and help them with the transition. August 27th is the first day of school for all students. Buses will run, and we will look forward to hitting the ground running on August 27th. And then 4-year-old kindergarten will begin the following day, August 28th, with busing. Directors, anything we want to emphasize beyond that? I should point out that our back letter, Jenny, Meixel, and the other clerical staff here in the ASC did a marvelous job putting together the back to school newsletter. There is an online link available for the public to review here in Board Docs, but that will be going to every box in the school district, whether or not they have children in school. We expect those will be hitting mailboxes this week. Also, I did write a school crossings column about Parent Square, our new communication tool. On the back end of things, people might not necessarily recognize it being different, because in previous years, we did use email, we did use phone calls, we did use text messages for things like school cancellations. Parent Square is going to allow us to do that for more items. It allows families to control a little bit more about what and how they're communicated with. They can set it up so they receive things in batches and all that. So we'll continue to share information about Parent Square as we roll that out this fall, and we think it'll be a nice communication tool and advance our communication efforts. Are there any questions from anybody?
On Parent Square, I was wondering, I think originally there was a discussion last year, or back in the winter, about Parent Square being available for people in the community who don't have kids in the district, just as general information. And I was curious, I didn't dig through the draft of the newsletter yet, but if there's any mention of, for box holders who don't have kids in the district, how they might kind of get online with those things.
I think that will be something that is expanded this fall after we're prioritizing the families first. So what we want to make sure is that we still have the avenues for sharing things like the daily announcements, the newsletters, and the board meeting minutes. So those are still going to be on our website posted with the RSS feed. People have been able to do that now for a few years, where they can subscribe to the RSS feed and get a message anytime a new item is added to those web pages. But we are anticipating a Parent Square user group as well, but that will be something that comes after the families are fully set up. And I'm glad you asked that question, maybe, because it also reminded me that Parent Square is helping us to enhance our translation tools. We have already found out that in some of the messages that have been sent out this summer, that there's some things that we'll need to do as an administrative team to try to make sure we use words that are more easily translatable. So we've already, kind of hit the learning curve on that, and we'll be working with the building principals tomorrow. So it's not a perfect tool, but it definitely is better than not having any translation. And it sounds like, from what Katie was saying, is that the tool is somewhat intuitive and will continue to improve over time, which we're excited about that as well.
Thanks.
I was just curious about, because you said August 20th, that's the day that teachers report kind of for the meet and greet in the morning, and you give the awards out or whatever.
Yes.
And our board members are invited for that?
Yes, we will do a t-shirt handout as well, like we've done in previous years, and we'll send you the information, but usually around 7:30, 7:45, I think, Brian. is when the board members are welcome to come and kind of welcome people back.
Thank you for clarifying, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Also, about the 20th, and this is more of a comment, I'm impressed by the speaker that you're bringing in. I went to his site to check him out, and his message is phenomenal. He's extremely engaging, so good job on, I don't know how you secured that speaker, but there you go.
Brian, long as Michelle brought it up, could you just give us a 2-minute intro on our speaker that's coming in for our keynote?
Absolutely. He's a former principal of the year in the state of Minnesota. We told him we would not hold that against him. He's also a Vikings fan. So I don't know, he's going to have to kind of work on that. But the message that he's delivering is entitled Overcoming Education, Being the Change that you aspire to be. With the work that we've been doing in the district the last couple of years of making sure that we're having open, honest dialogue with families about student learning and growth. There's some work that he's done in his district and in the state of Minnesota centered around that, but then also how do we help motivate students, how do we help motivate each other, and have those intentional conversations. So we're excited to have him come in, and I've had the opportunity to hear him a couple of times at different presentations, and he comes highly recommended.
And Michelle knows this from her time as being a coach in the school district. Our school district has done a marvelous job over the years, and I thank the board for that in terms of the professional development that we're able to offer our staff in-house. I was absolutely impressed when I came to Menomonie, was 11 years ago or something, almost 12 years ago now, at the quality of professional development that we're able to offer. And we're just at that real nice size to have these kinds of speakers come in, and I know our staff members appreciate it as well.
Sorry, I have another question about Parent Square. So will parents be introduced to that during the meet and greet, or will they seamlessly be using it by virtue of having their contact info on Skyward?
It's going to be very seamless. In fact, parents are already getting messages that are being sent through Parent Square. Those are the messages that you're getting. So instead of us sending it through the Skylert program, which is what we've had over the past 12 years, now we're sending things out through Parent Square. The key, the most important piece, whether we're using Skylert or Parent Square, is that it's important that families have their contact information updated in the Skyward Family Access database. People can do that on their own. If they need assistance, they can contact the ASC. And I know Morgan in our tech department has helped a lot of people. Others can help people. But if the family access is set up, that's really where it starts. Katie, you know more about Parent Square than any of us. Is there anything else that you think would be worth emphasizing right now?
No, I would just say we do have it mapped so that whatever the home language is what it starts in. But if people do speak English fluently and they're finding the translations aren't great, there are directions and everything for them to adjust that. And so we do have all of that on the website as like help articles for parents. And I would say really as long as their stuff is updated in Skyward, they can choose to do nothing. And parents that would rather be able to see it all in one place or be able to look back at messages throughout the year, they can sign up for the app and they would have access to anything that they had deleted.
And so in terms of accessing the app, is that something that folks will get information about at meet and greet day?
Yes, and My School Crossings also includes information about we have a special web page on our school district website that has all that information as well. So yeah, we'll continue to share that out. And one thing that I really like about it is that if we have an emergency, a school closing or snow day or some other threat or something like that, it's going to push through to whatever communication systems people are signed up for. But if it's not an emergency communication, families will have the option to determine would they like to get all messages from the school district at one time in one batch? Would they like to come in as they're sent? There's a lot more control for families to help them with their busy lives stay organized.
Thank you for that information. Any other questions or discussion about the back-to-school plans?
I have one.
Go ahead. You're on.
Is there a place that we have, you know, the community's been very generous in helping families if school supplies are a financial hardship for people. Do we have those resources consolidated and available for any families who might be struggling as they get multiple back-to-school lists?
Thanks for that. I'm actually going to have Tonya answer that. Tonya, go ahead.
Many of our buildings, so I direct families directly to their building. We typically do get a larger donation from some community organizations closer to the start of the school year that then they come up here and then we distribute them to the buildings. So I would suggest families reaching out, maybe on that meet and greet day and reaching out at those individual buildings for school supplies.
So again, just in case anybody couldn't hear, that did come through terrific. If there are people that are looking for additional resources for back-to-school supplies or other assistance in terms of getting their children off to a start, the building level with the building principal or the building clerical would be the suggested avenue for receiving that assistance. If there's questions beyond that or if additional assistance is needed, please just come to the Administrative Service Center here or contact Tonya Kowiski, our Director of Student Services. Great question, Amber. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Right. Next up on the agenda, we have our community education report. And our Director of Community Education, Matt Riley, is here to present it.
Well, Mr. Riley gets the microphone set up. I just want to point out, the next 3 agenda items are all reports from Mr. Riley. And he's just entering his 2nd year. Got his feet wet last year and had an awesome first year. Rave reviews on a lot of the work that Mr. Riley's done to organize and streamline a lot of the duties in both the athletics and the community education departments. So Mr. Riley, have at it.
Thanks for having me. First, I'm going to focus on the community ed piece, data collection, just a couple of goals that we have each year. First off is we want our enrollment to exceed or stay where it was the previous year. And if you look at our program of participation data in 2023-24, overall we had more numbers for the fall, winter, and a little less in the spring this year, but our total there was more than the previous year. Look at the winter specifically, 530. The pool was open every morning in the winter. Now, there was a heater issue last winter, and there was a lot of complaints about the water temperature, but people need things to do in the winter, and when it's, 10 degrees below zero and outside, the pool still seemed a little bit warm. So that was one thing I really focused on is just keeping our enrollment up. And if you go to the recreation classes that we offer, we had a lot more offerings this year than we had in years past. We offer yoga, we offer fitness classes, a variety of water aerobics, whether it's shallow or deep water aerobics. We also offer evening water aerobics as well. And being the only pool in the community, in the town, and pretty much the only pool in, probably 20, 30 miles from here, people want to be in the pool. So we do offer a wide variety of those activities for our community members and staff members. And then our memberships this year, if you look at our memberships, those are way up. The reason for that is we also offered pickleball this year for the first time, I think, since I've been in Menomonie, and that's a very popular sport, and it's to the point now where we're going to have to even have separate pickleball sessions so the field house can be used for other things. But that did up our membership, and a lot of people really enjoyed that because that is such a growing and popular sport for the community ed. And then the membership types, you can see the last thing there. We had a lot more members this year, and again, that's attributed to the pool and the pickleball players, as well as just getting the word out. So overall, it was well attended this year, even with the pool issue. We got that fixed, and this year we're even looking to increase our numbers more. So I'll answer any questions you might have about community ed or anything pool, field house related.
This is a great report, thanks. I have one just little like detailed question on page 3 under data collection. I was wondering, are the years like off by one? Because the last year shown on that table on page 3 is 23, 24. And I think all this data is from 24, 25. So I'm just wondering if it's off by, if I should be reading that last line on page 3 as the year that just ended and not a year delayed. I think it's probably just a typo.
Yeah, that's just a typo.
Okay,
Sorry about
thanks.
that.
That's good.
Yeah, I just want to echo, this is a great report, and I also really appreciate the programming. It's something that I and my family have used, and I love it. So glad that it's available to the community. Any other questions or discussion on the community ed report?
Did I remember correctly that last year, some of the fees were adjusted upward? I'm curious if there's been, this question is occurred to me now, so I apologize for not prompting it earlier. If there's been any feedback from people in the community about those fees.
We didn't have any complaints about them, and Dr. Zdowski and I are currently looking at our fees for this coming year as the registrations and memberships will start September 1st. So we're still determining if we're going to increase those or keep them the same.
Thanks.
All right, if there's no additional questions or discussion about the community education report, we can move on to the athletics and activities report.
Yep, so athletics and activities, very successful year this past year for our activities and our athletics. Some key points that I want to make. We had 4 teams qualify for state competitions, which is outstanding. It was boys and girls cross country, boys tennis, and then our equestrian team went to state. We had 21 individuals earn state qualifiers, which is very impressive. And then we had 85 student athletes receive all conference awards in the BRC. And the school our size, we're the second smallest school in our conference. It's very impressive to have that many athletes. Another very important thing to note is 80% of our students were involved in at least one activity. We have, I think, 68 different activities that I had on, and have 80% of our students involved in at least one activity. While we're performing arts is very impressive. Obviously, our goal is try to get 100%, but I don't know. No, we're getting there, but it's great to see that many students who are involved in a variety of different activities that we have at the high school. The first document that I linked in there is just a breakdown of all the sports and how they finished in the BRC. That's just a great resource for you to look at and see how our teams are doing, along with any individual and team accomplishments that they had last year. And then we keep a list of activities and organizations, all the different things that they do throughout the year. That is a very detailed list of all the different clubs and activities that's updated. Like I said, we have 68 offered activities at the high school, and last year we had 871 participants out of our enrollment, which is a very high number. We have great advisors, we have great coaches, and that's the reason why a lot of our students want to perform in those different activities. And then our activities timeline, just a list of accomplishments and achievements that happened throughout last year. Starting with homecoming, going all the way until we ended school in June. Just a detailed list of all the great things that are going on in our school, whether it's athletics, clubs, or activities. Probably the most important thing I want to point out is we had 315 students, which was an increase from 178 last year, who participated in one or more activity, and they achieved a GPA of 3.5 or higher, which is very impressive. So obviously, academics come first, and our coaches and advisors and teachers know that, and to see that jump from the previous years teaching and prep. We really stress the importance of academics in everything that we do at the high school. And then the last part of the report is the spending analysis. Our revenue was a little bit down, but the reason for that is last year is we allowed high school students into all events with their student ID. I think that played a role into that. But other than that, we had well-attended events. Our crowds were great, but it's great to have the students come and support their peers and all the different activities that we offer at the high school. So overall, it was an outstanding year. Capped off, our spring sports had outstanding years. Our softball team had a record year, our baseball team did well, track and field had numerous people go to state. And then Coach Suprai, our boys tennis coach, actually was just named the tennis coach of the year in Division I, which is an outstanding achievement. So we hope to continue that success in last year's spring sports into the fall season. We're excited to get started here. And if you have any questions about anything on that report, I can answer those.
This is also a great report. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to see all of the things that our students can participate in. That 85% number is staggering. It's wonderful. So thank you for that. I had a question about the revenue. This sheet indicates that the revenue does not include any fundraising. So earlier we were discussing the donation of local businesses that are advertising. So is that considered fundraising? And then therefore does it not get included in?
Yeah, that's fundraising, so that's not included in each sport or club. Some of them have their own Fund 21 account, and they do some fundraising to cover different costs that are associated with each sport.
So there's a fundraising that sort of just stays within a sport or activity, and then the larger fundraising that might, like the booster club or that.
Booster club or sponsorships that we have.
Okay. And none of that is reflected in this. Is that right? Yeah.
Right. And the district-wide fundraising, for instance, we do the live stream commentary and stuff. We receive commercial sponsorships and sponsorships for different things, touchdown sponsors, things like that. Those fundraised dollars are controlled by Mr. Riley in the athletic department, and he helps to ensure that there's equitable distribution of those funds. So it's not all going to one sport or one activity, and we think that's very important.
Which is the same for the booster club. I know they're outside, but they split what they donate. They split amongst all 25 sports that we have at high school.
I was just curious how budgeting works, like how you decide the amounts that are given to each sport. Just curious. There's like a formula.
That was set before, I was here, but being this my second year, it's just good to see, number one, how many participants we have and the amount of equipment. For example, football, they have over 100 players. Helmets are expensive, shoulder pads. Hockey, the same thing. They have a lot of players. The equipment is more. But based on equipment and participation numbers, and then as well as transportation and travel is a big one. You got to transport all those players and athletes to different sports as well. That plays into a role. And then dues and fees. Like for example, cross country, if they go to a course and run, each school can charge an amount of fee to participate. I know wrestling, for example, they have a lot of those fees to pay for officials and things for other schools. So it all depends on those factors. But I would say the biggest thing is the equipment and the amount of participants in the sport.
And generally, across the school district, including the activities and athletics budget, we really try to budget on a needs budget basis. So we really start with the basic needs first, and then we try to plan ahead. For instance, like wrestling mats or pole vault pits, football shoulder pads, some of the large expenses that occur maybe once a decade or depending on what the equipment is, then the AD needs to make sure that he or she builds that into the budget. So we try to plan ahead, and then a combination of district funds and fundraised dollars typically cover those things.
Any other questions or discussion on the AD report?
Rachel, I should have mentioned, in the back-to-school update, we do have a number of activities that are started up, and I've noticed that there's all sorts of students and coaches, staff, that have been in our buildings nonstop already. And when I look at it, I see girls tennis has a competition on the 16th, so that's this week.
Yeah, they start tomorrow and they already play this week. Girls golf hosts their first match at Tanglewood, that's our home course now, on the 14th. So they started today and they host on the 14th already.
That's at Tanglewood.
At Tanglewood, yeah.
I see football's first home game is the 21st.
Next Thursday is our first home regular season game. They have a scrimmage this Friday in Edgar.
Cross country on the 23rd, they have a competition.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or I'm sorry, that was swimming.
Swimming at home as a competition on the
23rd.
23rd, a big relay meet that we always host.
Yeah, Ellie's excited for that. And then cross country was the 30th, I think was their first. Brian, there's a time trial coming up too, isn't there?
There is,
When is
That's
that?
next Friday.
next Friday.
Friday.
One of these years I'm gonna train for it. Mr. Olson?
All I know is I'm told if I run, I will be the second fastest administrator.
Mr. Drake usually wins it, doesn't he? Yeah, Mr. Olson's invited me each of the past 11 years, and one of these years I'm gonna do it, but I don't wanna have a heart attack. Cross country.
Any additional questions or discussion on the athletics and activities report? All right, Mr. Riley, write down the next one. We have review of policy 371.1, district-sponsored student activities and organizations.
And that list is just updated. I worked with Jenny on this the last couple of weeks just to make sure it's current and updated on all the different activities, sports, clubs that we offer at the high school and other levels of our school district. And then in the parentheses, how they're funded based on each activity.
Does that mean like the points that the coach gets?
No, how each, so for example, if it's a WIA sanctioned sport, that's different compared if it's not funded at all, it's just fundraiser dollars.
And that relates back to the actual 371 policy. This is the exhibit for that policy, but it also dictates if there's charges for using facilities and such.
Just to clarify, it's policy 374 as a district funding of student
Yeah, thank you.
contests and tournaments, and that has quite a lot of detail with 5 different levels. Is that the right way to describe them? So the numbers in parentheses after each activity refer to one of those 5 levels. That's detailed in policy 374.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of information. Yeah. Any additional questions or discussion about exhibit or policy exhibit 371.1? Thank you for the time
Thank you.
and for being here today.
Thanks.
Next up, we have our legal services report.
Actually, Rachel, I'll take this, even though Eric did the work. I appreciate Eric. I appreciate Eric putting the numbers together, but I will speak.
If you want to say
services.
something.
Eric, are the numbers correct? Okay, there's his part. No, I appreciate Eric putting the numbers together, but as in the previous years, you can see that we came in well under budget for the legal services, and that's after reducing our budget quite a bit. And I appreciate the work. A lot of it has to do with specialized employment cases, or once in a while some specialized student situations. So whether it be Tonya, Sam, or I, we also have had some financing and some long-term debt refinancing where the business department has had some legal services, but generally I think we're doing a good job minimizing those costs for our school district.
Any questions or discussion on the legal services report? Thank you for that description. Next up, we are reviewing revisions to policy 441.5, student conduct on school buses.
Tonya can speak to this, but I wanted to compliment both Tonya and everyone at Menomonie Transportation, particularly Tom Krieger. Great work in terms of consolidating other documents, trying to really kind of clarify for everybody what the expectations are. Tonya, anything you wanted to point out here?
No, we worked with Menomonie Transportation and elementary, middle, and high school principals, and really to pull the policy together about what, common practices are. As you can see, the policy is a little old, so it was about time that we looked at that and revised it and kind of matched what our current practices are. So, any questions on that?
Do we need to vote on this in the next meeting, or is it just a review? Okay.
We will bring it back for board consideration at the next meeting.
Thought so, just want to make sure.
Good question.
Something I'm slightly curious about, it's not directly part of the policy, but I'm kind of curious about is can you describe like how the interaction works with bus drivers? I mean, not as far as I don't have any problems in our district, but other districts in the state have had some, situations arise with bus drivers. And I'm curious, since we contract our bus drivers with a private company, how does that relationship work in terms of sharing the, it talks about the school bus being an extension of the classroom, similar expectations. How do we ensure through our discussions with Menomonie Transportation that the drivers have the appropriate expectations to expect of, say, a peer educator or someone else in the building?
So if there is an issue on the bus driver typically will go back to the bus company, talk with, it's usually Tom Kruger, and then he contacts the principal at that building to kind of discuss what happened on the bus, steps forward. Typically, there are times during the year that we actually go out and talk with the bus drivers, talk about different strategies that they could be using. We've done that quite a few times. How to kind of build relationships with students, kind of maybe de-escalate a situation. There are times that we've had teachers or para-educators ride the bus. I've ridden the bus before. We've had principals ride the bus. So it's hard to, when the bus driver is trying to relay a situation through different people, it's hard to know, kind of what's happening. What does that environment look like? So that's where sometimes we've ridden the bus, so we have a better understanding. And then it's also to make sure that the students' expectations are being followed. The main role of the driver is to drive the bus, right? That's what we want them to do. We want them to look forward and we want them to drive the bus. So sometimes it's hard to know kind of what's happening in the back of the bus. But I would say for Menomonie Transportation not to be part of the district, I would say most people don't even know that because I think we work so collaboratively and so closely together. It is really just an extension of, it's kind of an extension of our family. So we work really collaboratively together and they in turn work really collaboratively with us. I think it's a great relationship and I think most people don't even know that we're kind of we're separate entities, but.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a couple things to add to that, as long as we're having that discussion. In addition to the collaborative efforts that Tony already talked about, we also do have cameras on the buses, and that we hope that they're not used, but in the event that there's a situation where we need to look back at the cameras, review of cameras is done. We also have our youth service officers that once in a while, it's pretty rare, but once in a while they will get involved with a situation that occurs in the bus. So there's a lot of support there, and certainly we also partner with the families that are involved.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if this is a little bit of a sidebar conversation or who to address it to, but I'm curious to know if the district has ever looked into the apps that I know of an app that parents can use just so that they can watch the bus where it is, so they know exactly when their child's getting to the bus stop. My daughter had it in a different school district with her son when she was in kindergarten. It was very helpful to know when he was going to be exactly where he was. I'm just curious to know if we ever looked into that. If we ever looked into that.
You know, I don't recall a conversation about that, and that's something maybe we could talk to Menomonie Transportation about. The other thing is, you know, like those Apple AirTags, I know some families like to put those in their kids' backpacks. If they have a cell phone, if they're old enough to have a cell phone, oftentimes they track through their child's cell phone, but the other thing would be to use some sort of like AirTag in the backpack. Tony, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, I know in conversations with Menomonie Transportation, they are aware of some of the newer technology that is coming out on even some of the newer buses, that availability. But we probably have to look a little bit into how to do that, especially on buses, if we have older buses. Heck, my 23-year-old. I still pay the bills.
Yes, in the spirit of trying to work so hard to provide our community with as much information and transparency as we can, that's just another tool. It kind of goes hand in hand with Parent Square. So anyway, our second issue. Thank you.
I just wanted to take a sec. Amber, were you trying to say something earlier, or do you have anything to add?
No, I'm happy listening.
Okay, great. I thought I heard a peep. Anyway, any other questions or discussion regarding policy 441.5? So at our next meeting, we'll be looking at both the policy 441.5 and then the rule 441.5 for updating and approval.
Yes, the policy is the only piece the board needs to
Oh, sure.
take action on.
Got it. Wonderful. All right, next up we have another policy to review, policy 823, access to public records notice and fee schedule.
This is a real easy one. This is simply updating the contacts to make sure they're current, who the board members are, who the office holders are for the school district. And I also have been talking with Jenny. We will have this on our calendar board reports to ensure that this gets updated annually. You can see that it's a little outdated, and I think it'd be good practice to have this updated annually right after the board reorganizational meeting.
Yeah, that sounds great. I was glad to hear you say, talk about putting it on the calendar board report so we don't let it slip through the cracks for another 6 years. Sorry. I have a number of years. Great, any questions or discussion about the updates to that policy? Wonderful. And also just to clarify, there's no change to the content of the policy. So that is simply updating content info. All right, next up we have discussion of the district work plan for 2025-26.
So this is the second time the board has reviewed this. In talking with Rachel ahead of this meeting, we felt it was most appropriate to put it back on discussion again and then bring it forward to the board for consideration at the next meeting. I really appreciate the feedback that board members gave both at the last meeting we had and then also between last meeting and now. But it is really important. It's important that this work plan reflect the major goals and activities, and wanted to just make sure we have another opportunity to make sure that I understand what it is that set for our main goals and activities, and to see if we accurately reflected the previous feedback that we received. So I guess I'll leave it at that.
I just wanted to maybe call folks' attention to some of the changes that have been made since last time. There was there's a bullet point under pillar 1 regarding tier 1 strategies in our MLSS work that Michelle had brought up. There was one or maybe 2 bullet points added regarding the rollout of the strategic plan, and then there were some language changes that the board suggested during the last discussion. I think those are the main things that have changed since we looked at this 2 weeks ago. Do you want to say something?
I I just want to provide a little bit of clarification because I was under the understanding that there was some confusion about what the bullet point that I added, so if I can.
You knew more than the rest of us.
I worked very hard to try to articulate this. I'm struggling to find the words. So essentially, my thoughts are centered on looking at the glasses half full here with Act 20 and all of the training that the staff received, and not just staff, but administrators, and that teachers across our district are all speaking the same language and understanding exactly with the same training what is required of them, and with the principals as well being trained. They have, being side by side with educators to do that training, just sets a common language across our district. And I was hoping to see some of that happening in other subjects as well, or just checking in on it. Maybe it already is, so I'm looking for information on how that's going in other areas. Kind of a compliment to Act 20, some of it.
Sounds good.
So just to make sure, I think, Michelle, you were pretty involved in writing this bullet point, and that reflects what you were hoping to see, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And Brian wasn't able to be with us last time when we were discussing it and thinking, oh, Brian would be a really good person to chime in on this.
Actually, I was missing you. That's ever happened.
Brian and I connected on it.
Okay.
We're good to go.
If he wants to shed light on it, great. His thoughts.
Do any board members have questions for Michelle about any of that, or for Brian or Joe? Or other comments?
I don't want to speak too much for Brian, but basically, Brian, what you told me is you think it aligns well with the work we have planned.
That's correct.
Great. That's good to hear. Questions or discussion about anything else that we have in the work plan?
So I appreciate the ability to do that, or have a discussion and kind of think it over again. Currently, the things I was concerned or was interested in last time do appear to be here, so that's good. And if I think of anything else, I'll let you know.
This is just kind of a comment. I think that where it says that on the pillar one, the first bullet about the improvement initiatives at the high school, I'm glad that they're doing a halfway and at the end of the year as well. And I swear, when I read that this weekend, that only the June 30th was there. So I don't know if that changed between the time I read it, or I just didn't read it correctly the first time. But anyhow, I was going to bring that up if it wasn't there, but it's already there, so I guess somebody read my mind.
I'm glad it works out, Amy.
I think at our last board meeting, we had discussed a little bit, I can't remember if it was in the context of the work plan, but kind of the loss of having the diversity committee, the challenge of that, that the committee itself not really having a sense of direction. I think that there would be a good opportunity for us to bring something like that back, but different than what it was before. And I think it would be a good opportunity to collaborate with the families and students. So not just a committee that is just 10 admin and staff in a room, but like connecting the students and staff. When I look at like Eau Claire has really like rich Hmong like school and community events and groups and things like that. And when I think about our students, I'm not sure that we have a lot of opportunities for our students that don't see themselves in our staff. And so I think when we think about like diversity committee, that would be a really cool opportunity for us, rather than just having a committee that's like
I don't really know what we're doing. But rather than having a committee that's doing what they're doing, I think it would be a good opportunity to find a way to bring in students that often are, in a lot of ways, more creative sometimes than adults, but also students that like would be able to express what they would need and how they would be supported by a group like that.
I think it makes a lot of sense personally. I think that that fits in well with what Emily thought about it last time as well. And in the, like, thinking of it as a pillar 4 activity beyond just like a staff activity, it does make a lot of sense. Because that's really where, like, you know, it's a clear rubber meets the road in terms of what are we trying to do? We're trying to make sure that every student feels that they have a welcoming community that will support their education. And the way you know that best is by working with the students and families with that purpose.
Yeah. And like also to just kind of thinking broader too, that it's really important for our students regardless of what you call it. So if we need to go back old school and call it a multicultural meeting or something, or I don't know, anything, but I think that that's a really, I think that's kind of a gap for us as a district.
Dominique, can I ask a question? When you're thinking this through, how are your thoughts, or for anyone really, what are your thoughts about how you see this coming together? Like, are you picturing admin asking for volunteers? Are you, what are your thoughts on what that looks like? And like what the goal or the mission is? Or are you asking for, let's ask students what the goal or mission is? Let's ask them. I'm not clear on that.
I think more the second. Like, I could come up with a plan for what it could look like and how to engage people, but I also wonder if we already have staff and students that would be interested in leading something. I think we have a multicultural club, yeah. I think we do.
At the middle school and high school.
At the middle school and the high school. So like, I think it would be a great thing to start there, to figure out what students in our district benefit from. I know a family who literally like takes their kids to Eau Claire school district's activities. So like, are there students who have experienced things like that would want to bring them here? So it's really less about, I mean, again, I could write up a plan for something, but it's less about what I think it should be and the opportunity to meet with students and community members, or even just students and their parents for an hour or something, and be creative about what it could look like.
And I would agree with that, because I don't think we should have to have, this is the strategic plan and moving forward, because it should be, in my opinion, I agree with you, a collective, kind of organic decision about what this could look like, because again, I feel like we have a lot of well-intentioned teachers in this district, and I love that you included that on pillar 3 with the culturally relevant instruction. However, if we are looking through a lens from our perspective, that doesn't mean we're being inclusive of others, and I think that's why, Dominique, what you're saying here is we need to engage people that have varying voices and experiences other than our own.
So in the work plan, is there a pillar 4 item? Because it sounds to me like what you're describing is a situation where like the sort of energy for it would come from the ground up, right? This is coming from, maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but like students and parents and maybe teachers and building level staff. And so what is, like, I guess one way to think about it is like, what are we asking administration to do to foster that?
something that could go on the work plan under pillar 4?
I think maybe there's potential for that in the family engagement survey portion of it. When I worked at an elementary school in the cities, we had a similar thing to what you're talking about, Emily. And we kind of, not really facilitated it, but just created a space for people to come talk about, you know, what we're lacking, what they need, and then kind of gave them the, you know, like the tools to create, you know, and I think it was called like multicultural, but it was like they led what they need, and then we kind of assisted them in creating this, like, you know, it was like one Monday a month or whatever, but they led what it was, which was really important because, like you said, you need to be able to speak to what you need. Like, I can't speak to what the children need or the families need. Within the pillar, you know, if there's a family engagement survey, maybe that could be added in there, or some sort of other survey to get information from children or families and kind of go from there.
In the context of this discussion, I'm thinking back and we used to talk about the activities report, and something we've seen, doesn't come from these reports specifically, but in other reports, is about participation and task force and stuff across different socioeconomic groups, different ethnic groups, different you know, categories of survey respondents. And I think we've often been concerned about kind of mismatches or gaps in those across different groups, and have wondered, like, how can we be sure that we actually are serving, you know, students of all backgrounds, as we look at improving, you know, high school outcomes, middle school outcomes. And so I think that this sort of activity that's focused on the parents and students is a way to directly engage those, to think about clinically, engage the numbers we see coming out of those reports, right? About there being gaps in AD participation being lower in certain groups, or, you know, math scores being lower in certain groups, things like this. And really engaging directly with those families about what specific activities can the district do from their perspective that would be helpful. And I think that, not that you have to go all the way to that endpoint directly, but having the opportunity to have family and student-led discussions in a way that can influence policy and process at the district-wide level actually could be pretty powerful. And I was thinking back about the pillars and outcomes and goals, and how we have like metrics for different, or not metrics, but what was the word we used? Kind of telltale signs. I'm forgetting the indicators. Yes, thank you. Indicators of whether we're being successful. You know, and over several years, you hope to see that participation in extracurricular activities increases across all groups. That math and English scores improve across all groups, right? And there are gaps forming. So, if we were to look for kind of an indicator, I'd look back to those reports on in the high school and middle school about what indicators would be successful there.
I really think Andy's suggestion about utilizing the family engagement survey makes a lot of sense, and I think that's something that could be added to it. And we are developing a survey with the idea that it would be an annual event, an annual goal. But I recognize there may be more that's wanted out of that. I know that our buildings are doing many great things, and I was looking back at Mr. Kennedy, and I don't know if I want to put him on the spot, but I wouldn't mind talking to the building principals tomorrow when we meet to get their feedback on a potential goal. Or also, Mike, is there anything tonight that you want to mention? Or
a lot of this conversation really speaks to, I think, about celebrating the month of April and Hmong Heritage Month and the work done with that, just knowing our student demographics, at least, are certainly at River Heights, and we've had wonderful staff engagement, student engagement, parent engagement with those activities over the last couple of years. Jen Lee, our EL teacher, has been phenomenal in leading a lot of that. So certainly a lot going on, and again, it speaks to the conversation that you're having here.
But I do recognize what Emily and Dominique were saying, though, that, getting their family's feedback as well, so it's not just the district, providing something, it's also what can we do to support. And we could talk about that tomorrow, and also, Dominique or Emily or anybody else, if you have a specific wording or goal, you could send it to me, we can hash it over and hopefully have something on here for our final draft for the board to consider at the next meeting.
I have a suggestion related to that. First, I just wanted to ask quickly, the family engagement survey, is that something that the board can have a look at, a draft of what those questions will be and have some input on, to sort of see if it gets at what we're doing, just to kind of revisit that when the survey planning gets underway, just 1 second. And then related to a potential wording, one thing that occurred to me is that we could be asking the administration to empower and encourage building leadership to work with families to identify activity, celebration, outreach at each level. Does that make, as a starting point?
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say a less precise version of what you just said, so, but I'll say it anyway. The idea that, with a survey, the survey gives us data, but it also is a means of communication. And that, when a survey has an option to say, are you satisfied with such and such, or which of these categories you're most concerned about, if the survey is formulated in the way that people actually respond to it, then there's often an opportunity to say, can we reach out to you and follow up and have a conversation about this if you're really, if you're deeply concerned about this topic or this item. Are you willing to meet in person with the principal and have a conversation and help us find a way forward so we can mitigate or improve the situation? So I think that kind of thinking of the survey as the starting point of a two-way communication is a powerful thing.
I have a question for Angie. You talked about this in Minnesota that you were at the school that kind of did this. And you said it was like a once a month kind of thing or whatever, like a space. Can you kind of describe what kind of activities were they doing on those?
Sure. So it was usually after school on Mondays, and families were encouraged to come. It was in the library, so then it would be, there would be some sort of celebration around food or an upcoming holiday. It was a good networking event to meet other families who have the same, whatever, just to connect with people.
Traditions or whatever.
Yeah. So it was a lot of based around holidays that were coming up, and I think the most important thing of it was, to be with other folks who celebrate things that you do. There was a lot of English as second language students, so it was nice, you could be in a space at school where English wasn't the primary language that was being spoken. So just things like that. It was a good, connection. It was usually a good celebration. Things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that when we're brainstorming a vision of what it could look like to support students, that systemically don't have people in leadership that look like them, that our vision of support can expand to something that's a little bit more, that's not limited to one-time events or short periods of time, but expanding it to make sure that we're trying to support students long-term, if that makes sense. Both are good, and I think that our district is creative, especially in the short term. And again, I don't want to dictate what the district would create for families or students. I would want that to come from them, but as we're being creative about solutions or ideas, I want to keep that in mind too, that
there are different ways to do that.
That's what I was trying to get clarified, really. Because when I've said before, you know, we have so much in place, and we do. We have the family nets and the international nets, and you know, we have all kinds of things already happening. But my impression of what you're trying to get across is that we're looking for something digging deeper than that, something more personalized to, you know, like personalized learning that we do for teachers, personalized to what the kids are telling us or the families are telling us they need that we might not be aware of. I got it. Thank you.
That's what I was just gonna say. I feel like the conversations with families, care students those sorts of topics may come up, right? It's not something like, well, we think we should talk about, you know, A, B, C, D, but it's actually things that are relevant and important to them.
Any additional thoughts on this topic or anything else in the work plan for 2026?
So again, I would just like to encourage any board members, if you have any specific language, please send it to me. I will work with the principals tomorrow. Bare minimum, I think we would expand maybe the survey goal to include some language there, but perhaps another bullet point as well. But again, anything you could send me would be helpful. Thank you.
Any final questions or discussion on the major goals and activities? All right. And we will expect to vote on this in 2 weeks? Okay. Finally, we have items related to next meeting dates, board committees, and reports. As discussed earlier, the new teacher orientation luncheon is on Wednesday of this week. Next Wednesday, there's a professional development kickoff for all staff. We have our special school board meeting at 5:45 on August 25th.
Yeah, last year, I don't think we had to start early. I would like to just point out that Rachel, once Rachel and I look at the agenda, I don't think there's going to be a lot on there, but depending on the length of the agenda, we may want to start a little early, like maybe 5:30 or something. So we'll be in communication about the start time for the next meeting, because we do have the annual meeting following it. But we can always pause the board meeting and reconvene after the annual meeting if need be as well.
For the folks who are here, and Amber, is there any concerns with starting early if we need to accommodate the agenda on August 25th? All right, so on August 25th, we will have a special board meeting time TBD that will be followed immediately by the annual meeting and budget hearing at 6 o'clock at Menomonie High School in the tiered lecture hall. Don't show up here that night. And the next day is the 4K through 8th grade meet and greet day with the first day of school the following day, August 27th. Any questions related to next meeting dates? It was mentioned earlier, please email Jenny if you'd like to attend any of those new teacher orientation and PD events. All right. Any final thoughts? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, and good luck everyone who's getting ready for PD and everything else.
Stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for